This is KTIT, K-Tit, playing the best tunes in town.
Hello, this is Archonagon, and today we're going to talk about censorship in Germany. Recently, with Target Australia and Kmart Australia specifically removing GTA 5 from their shelves, the topic of censorship, the topic of banning across countries has come up. And historically speaking, this is nothing new. However, it's different from country to country, and the reason why I mentioned Germany is it has a very specific history. It's actually kind of interesting to go through in this sense. To start, the German version of the ESRB actually is known as the USK. I can't speak German. I would not recommend I try to butcher the language because I just don't have the experience with it. But just keep in mind that the USK is the same thing as the American ESRB. Now, Germany's history is such that they have been focusing on removing violence from their media so that they can be considered a lot friendlier, safer, more peaceful nation than they have been in the past. They also do this to try to protect their youth, not only from the past of the country, but from other countries' perspective of Germany. Now, just as an example, the Internet Business Law Service has this to say. In response to the 2006 Edmonton school shooting, the German states of Bavaria and Lower Saxony drafted legislation that would fine and would possibly jail video game developers who create and market games containing cruel violence on humans or human-looking characters. The Protection of Young Persons Act, otherwise known as PIPA, or PYPA, is a German legislation that protects youth from the influence of inappropriate movies, games, and certain public places, including gaming places and those selling alcohol. The act was enacted in 2002 and establishes that video games or any other games cannot be publicly accessible to children or adolescents unless they are cleared and labeled for their appropriate age group by the Supreme State Authority. Games have been banned and confiscated in Germany as well. The quote continues on to say that nonviolence and pacifism form the cornerstone of modern German society, where the memories of Adolf Hitler and the Third Reich are still vivid. A major cultural and moral dilemma in Germany is how to reconcile its determination to apply the lessons of the past to educating and protecting its youth while remaining a free and open society. So as you can see, it's actually quite important to them to get rid of the veneer of their history and appear to be, at least on the outset, very peace-loving, very accepting and opening culture. However, this is being approached by a lot of censorship in the country. Video games have been hit particularly hard in Germany. Everything from basic censorship to altering graphics, altering story, voice, etc., to outright banning by the government. And a few examples of bannings are Soldier of Fortune, Condemned, Manhunt, Dead Rising, Wolfenstein, Silent Hill, Left 4 Dead, a few of the Mortal Kombat games, the list goes on. And these are all banned for different reasons, but the majority of the reasons are because of, and I quote, high-impact violence and cruelty, or because of Nazi references. And the problem is that, like I said before, they're trying to get rid of this history. They're not trying to cover it up, they're just trying to show that they are not a part of it, that they are not accepting of it. The series of events in Australia are a mild version of this kind of censorship, and it is a form of censorship, but it's not outright censorship. The content of the game is not being changed. You can still buy it in Australia, you just can't go to those particular stores to get them. A few examples of how Germany has actually changed games, however, to fit their USK requirements are thus. Soldier of Fortune 2, human enemies were turned into robots, and instead of bleeding, they would produce sparks when shot. Then you have Witcher 2, which doesn't have something like pornography, but it is more explicit than, say, Mass Effect for their sex scenes. It was Australia that had a problem with Witcher 2. Two of the sex scenes were too hot, as in quotes, so they were simply completely removed. This is just another example of how things get changed around in different countries. In Bionic Commando for the Nintendo Entertainment System, if you're familiar with it, you know that you actually fight the Third Reich, and you fight a roboticized version of Germany's Third Reich, and the last boss is Hitler. The German version changed that around to fit a more totalitarian leader that's kind of Cuban in nature. Another example is Final Fantasy VIII had blood changed from red to blue or green, as well as organs from certain undead creatures. That's not counting Final Fantasy IV, or as the United States knows it, Final Fantasy II, where lots of Christianity-themed text was in the game. So, for example, the magic spell Holy was renamed to, quote, white. All references to prayer are removed. The Tower of Prayers and Mysidia is renamed to the Tower of Wishes. Rose's pray command is absent. They remove any references to direct death. However, characters do still die. And in other ways, they've actually put censorship into the game by taking NPCs that are in bikinis as dancers and replace them by wearing leotards. So again, just a few examples of how this sort of thing can be done. Doom, which everybody knows about, actually had a lot of problems going overseas in many ways because of its hyper-violence. And it came up again in Doom 64, which is the console version, or a console version port of it. They had a lot of problem with the color of the blood, so they changed it from red to green for all references. So instead of it being very blood red in the environment, it's a lot more green. In other ways, they've changed other games like Shadow Warrior, for example, the original Shadow Warrior. The characters' shuriken were actually changed to throwing darts. This was done because the country had had a lot of problems with certain kinds of non-gun related weapons, like butterfly knives, shurikens, nunchucks, any kind of martial weapon. So to prevent any kind of, let's say, motivation, they changed it from shuriken to throwing daggers. In Mario Kart, the original Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo, when you win, depending on the character that you have, the bottle of champagne that they're given, different characters react differently to the bottle of champagne. For example, in the original version, Bowser gulps the champagne down like the animal he is, but Peach takes a little sip and gets a red face afterwards. The United States version had this stuff changed because they didn't want to imply any kind of alcohol consumption with the game, but the whole point of having it there with Mario Kart was to kind of fit the Grand Prix style of ceremonial representation. And sometimes the changes come across on the multiplayer side instead. For example, parts of Counter-Strike were changed. The Last of Us had all the gore in the multiplayer removed or censored. The more common example, the more well-known example for multiplayer, at least on a local level, is how Midway changed the color of blood from red to an off-white sort of. And the idea, and this was for the console versions of Mortal Kombat 1, the idea was that they were knocking the sweat off of each other, but it didn't quite carry over the same way. These have just been a few examples as to how different countries and different cultures will censor or ban games, depending on the content that's in them. What Australia has done is very mild compared to what could have been done, and even then, like I said before, it's specific to those retailers. Thank you for watching. This is Archonagon. If you could like, subscribe, and comment, that'd be great. I also have been approved for YouTube donations, so if you go to the channel page on the right side, you will see a button that allows you to donate. Any amount would be appreciated. If you enjoy the work, please let me know. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Aw, man, why they pick me? I don't wanna do it, take a look at the scene. That I think that I gotta prove anything. I don't wanna see another galaxy. I know how they treat these pilots. Low in the air and too much mileage. With you, man, gotta avoid violence. Man, I'm annoyed, do I really gotta try this? Yeah, well, I'll say goodbye, this isn't what I want, but I'll act excited. Hey, everybody, look at me, I'm invited. Oh, from Woodbury, oh, I'm delighted. Another head of a celebrity sighted. Floating by, saying hi to the pilots.